that shot of the older Peter Parker with the beard, the two children married to Mary Jane, having the relationship with J. Jonah Jameson and Uncle Ben being alive. That was the big thing. But then at the end of this issue, we're seeing he's had kind of an itch in the back of his neck. Like,
yeah,
there's something he can't put his finger on. Like, something about his life is not the way that it should be. There's a new Ultimate Spider-Man for a new Ultimate Universe. 24 years later, there's a new Ultimate Spider-Man comic. It's a good time to be alive. I'm here with Shaw. Shaw, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent because I just heard one of the best cartoon animated theme songs of all time.
Yes.
The 1990s Spider-Man theme song. Shaw, should we start there? Is that a good place to start?
You know, I've been a Spider-Man fan for as long as I can remember, honestly. Certainly the Tobey Maguire movies were a big, not entry point for me, but that was one of the big things to see on the screen. Like, we hadn't had movies like that, you know, like, so that changed things in a big way for cinema. But the TV show in the 90s, oh my gosh, the best. Yeah, Spider-Man has always held a very near and dear place in my heart.
I'm right up there with you, Shaw. Spider-Man is my favorite character of all time. And when I was a kid, everything related to Spider-Man. Like, when I was reading comics,
you're related to Spider-Man?
I said, how does this fit into the lens of Spider-Man? So if I would come across Daredevil, either in an animated show or in a comic, I would be like, oh, Daredevil, that's Spider-Man's friend. He's friendly with Daredevil. Kingpin. Oh, okay, that's a Spider-Man villain. This is how the story relates. Everything was through the lens of Spider-Man.
I love that.
Yes, everything was Spider-Man. And they kind of did that with the initial Ultimate Universe, the one that came out in 2000. Almost, it was like Spider-Man that was the first book that came out in that Ultimate line. And it was, what if Marvel was not started in the 60s, but it was started in the 2000s? Make it more relatable. You don't have 40 years of backstory to catch up on. And it was a fresh start. I was a huge Ultimate Spider-Man fan, and that the whole Ultimate Universe, I read the entire series. That was where we got Miles Morales. Like, everything in that Ultimate Spider-Man run was something that I was glued to. I was hooked on. So we're here, Shaw. Ultimate Spider-Man 2024, number 1, has come out. Jonathan Hickman, the writer, Marco Cicchetto, the penciler. What did you think overall, Shaw, of this first issue?
I loved it. Yeah, it's, you know, I don't, part of me wonders if it's just a love of Spider-Man. Part of me loves if it's a love of Jonathan Hickman as a writer, as a storyteller, as a universe builder. He really makes a strong case for how to build out like a world. He blurs the line of what it means to be a writer, and he's a builder. Like, I think he almost is in, like, has a construction mindset. Like, this has to have layers. There needs to be a foundation, a basement, you know, like there has to be like varying levels of what we're aware of as the reader, what's happening in the background, what these characters' motivations are, the theme. Like, there's so much happening on top of itself that I'm like, how does he do this? Like, how does your brain work like that? So I love Hickman. And this does not disappoint. For anyone who didn't read Ultimate Invasion, which was the preceding comic book series, there's a nice little synopsis at the beginning. I was going to read this, Vactor, if that's okay by you. Just for our listeners that maybe didn't read that particular one. But the comic book for Ultimate Spider-Man number 1 starts by saying, 20 years ago, the Maker prevented a radioactive spider from biting a young Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes and formed a secret council to rule the world from the shadows. When Tony Stark learned the dark history of his universe, he sought to undo it, prompting the Maker's Council to attack Manhattan, killing thousands and frame Stark for it. Peter Parker has lived his life unaware of the Maker's Council or the truth behind the spider, but that is about to change. Wow. So this Peter Parker has grown up, gotten married to MJ, and has had 2 kids. So he's like a middle-aged dude, and was never bitten by the spider. Has lived his life. He still has connections to J. Jonah Jameson. He's still got Uncle Ben in his life, which was wild, and but never been bitten. So this is a very unique take on Spider-Man. What do you think?
And I really like how he started it with that shot of the older Peter Parker with the beard, and
Yes.
it's not necessarily starting with, all right, Spider-Man swinging around and he's in full costume. It's like, this is Peter Parker. This is who we are focused on. And let's set up the status quo of this universe. So like you said, the 2 children married to Mary Jane, having the relationship with J. Jonah Jameson and Uncle Ben being alive. That was the big thing, because if you're not Spider-Man, if you don't have that whole origin story to set up, yeah, Uncle Ben didn't necessarily need to die. So let's tell this story. So I am in for this.
In this particular universe, like, he hasn't had to deal with the 2 lives, right? Like, he hasn't had to balance Spider-Man and the toll that takes on his relationships, and the decision to keep, the loved ones at, away and a distance to try to keep them safe, and having to make deals with Mephisto, like all this crap that has gone down for Spider-Man over the long history. But in this, he's had the happily ever after, if you will.
Although
he's even getting along with J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, I've read so many years of him being the bad guy. Like, I like him being your friend now. I like J. Jonah. I like this nice JJ.
Yeah, totally. I thought it was a really cool reveal on like page 9 or 10 of this particular issue when Peter arrives at the Bugle and he's like, hey, how's it going? Hey, Jonah, blah, blah, blah. And you hear in the background, Parker. And
because you're thinking it's that old
you think
style.
He's screaming at Peter, but then he bypasses Peter and continues to scream and walks towards Ben Parker's office, the managing editor. I was like, oh, dang, this is gonna be fun. This is different. This is a Ben, Uncle Ben, that we've never seen. We don't know anything about this Ben.
Right.
And he's different. The way he talks, the way he interacts with Peter, it's different. Because they've had all this extra time. It's
yes.
And he's a journalist. He's a businessman. Like, he's got a different mentality. He doesn't necessarily show a lot of emotion either. He's a different man.
Because we haven't had that kind of reinterpretation of Uncle Ben over the years like we've had with so many characters. Uncle Ben kind of is stuck in that 60s, like he was created in the 60s, that mentality of the way he spoke, the way he acted. We haven't gotten this reinterpretation of him over the years like we've had with Peter, with MJ, with all these people, where they feel modern now because we've gotten these new takes on them. Uncle Ben has been one of those characters that Marvel has been like, hey, you can't really touch him that much. Like, we've seen him in these one-off stories, and it's always been like
touched.
a dream, an illusion, always another type of Uncle Ben. But this is the real Uncle Ben. This is him. So I'm curious to see how Hickman interprets him for this new era, this 2020s Uncle Ben.
Well, and it's almost like Peter's got 2 dads, because the way in which he interacts with Ben Parker in a fatherly type way, even though Ben is a little colder, it seems like, in this issue. And then you've got J. Jonah Jameson, who usually is the cold, keep you at a distance kind of guy, but he's the warm one who's offering like his tie to Peter. And you can just tell he's concerned and cares about him. And so that was a kind of an interesting dynamic and role reversal that I hadn't seen previously.
I really like that. So that was just another great setup. And then the fact that this universe, there has not been any superheroes. Once we get introduced to Matt Murdock, he looks like a priest or something.
Exactly.
We saw all of the names on the board of people who have been killed.
Yes.
One of them was Norman Osborn.
Yes.
So in this universe, there's not
Emily
Osborn,
which was his wife.
Oh, yes. So Harry is kind of
So Harry's
now.
alone. May Parker was killed.
So again, this is a great reestablishing of this universe. Like, what is going on in this first Ultimate Spider-Man issue? You're like, okay, I'm getting the ground rules for this universe, and seeing after the Ultimate Invasion, after seeing everything, where is everybody at? What is the status quo in this universe? And coming to the Daily Bugle, seeing who's the hostile takeover, it looks like it's the Kingpin, and his right hand man is Bullseye. So I'm interested to see how that dynamic plays out. Like, Kingpin is not one of those characters that had hey, he got bit by a radioactive king or something. Like, he hasn't had that type of origin story. So what are his necessarily, like, how has he been functioning in this universe? But seems like he's not on the up and up. But yeah, I'm really interested to see where the relationship of all the villains goes. Without a Spider-Man, it seems like the villains have not developed, kind of like the Batman thing of, as soon as Batman comes out, then all the villains start being created. So without the heroes, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of villains in this universe, but it looks like we're getting the creation of one in this one panel Green Goblin that we get, which I'm pretty sure is Harry, and him bombing the Kingpin. Now, do you think the Kingpin is dead from that? The way that was interpreted by your brain when you saw that explosion, did you say, "Oh, he's done"?
No, because on that same panel, you can see that the Kingpin's like guards or his bodyguards, whatever, are rushing him away. They're like carrying him out.
Oh, I see. Yes, that's good.
So. But at first I was like, really? We're going to kill the Kingpin in the first issue? And he only like appeared like a page earlier. Like, that's wild to me. Yes. But yeah, it looks like it was a warning. Looks like Osborn is issuing a warning. If it is Osborn, yes. We think it is, based on the speech that he gave when Peter and Ben and everyone were there. It just feels like he's got a real bone to pick and is very bitter and experiencing a lot of grief over the loss of his mom and dad. So
now that could be a red herring. They could be trying to throw us off because of our expectations. It does have on his little like shoulder pad, Osb Stark, which is like Osborn Stark. Looks like they've been merged, and then it says Mark IV. So it looks like this is kind of like an Iron Man Green Goblin.
That's a good catch. Wow, that's tiny. That's a good catch.
I had to zoom in on my screen here. I've got it pulled up on my computer, but yeah, I want to see where that's going. Now, the other interesting thing that I took away from this was, like we said, in this universe, it seems Peter Parker was happy up to this point. He got the girl, he's got 2 kids, he got a good job, but then at the end of this issue, we're seeing he's had kind of an itch in the back of his neck, like there's something he can't put his finger on, like something about his life is not the way that it should be. And so even in this universe, we can't have a completely, totally happy Peter Parker. It actually makes me think of, did you read House of M?
Yes.
Which was the Wanda, basically where she manipulated everything, changed the realities and said, okay, everybody, you're going to get all your desires, all your wishes. The House of M Spider-Man story was him not as Spider-Man, married to Mary Jane with kids. Like, that was his happy ending. Yeah, he has a destiny to be Spider-Man. So
isn't that great though?
They gave him
like
that.
Even in a universe that it doesn't happen, there's still that something's wrong. Something is off with this world. Have you ever felt that way just about your own life? Is there like where you're like, man, I'm supposed to be doing something else. Like, I'm meant for more. I feel that sometimes, like, especially like when I'm nothing against my job or anything, but like I have a passion for all of this. And I know that you do too. Like, this would be an amazing thing to be doing as our day to day. Right. Like,
I didn't have that thought until right now, Shaw. So you just made me realize that I was supposed to be bitten by a radioactive spider. So now I'm going to go out and look for or a genetically engineered spider. Either one.
Thank the maker for that.
Yeah, maybe he did manipulate my reality, Shaw. So I was
Right?
supposed to be a
See, we're not
superhero.
even in the
That's why
right
I love
universe right
superheroes so
now.
much. Yes. Um, but at the very end, he kind of gets this vision of a holographic Tony Stark, which that's another thing. I'm interested to see where the Tony Stark storyline goes, because he's off right now, hiding while everyone thinks he caused 9/11 in this universe. So
Well, yeah,
he
he's
kind
kind
of
of in
gives him
like an
that,
Iron Man Kang suit. Like he's in
yeah,
essentially
which
like
we
a
saw in Ultimate Invasion.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
cool.
he gives him kind of this choice of, hey, you were supposed to be something greater. You were supposed to be something better. Imagine, Shaw, if somebody came to you tonight and said that you were supposed to be a YouTuber, Shaw. You were supposed to be on here. And they
I'd be
just
like,
gave you
how
a
did you get
magic
in my
laptop.
house?
Here's a radioactive laptop, and it's going to bite you, Shaw, and turn you into a YouTuber. So he gets the choice. He gets the spider, and he says, I want it. And he turns into Spider-Man, Shaw. There's a great section of flashing to, and I could see this, it's like cinematic in my mind, flashing to Uncle Ben, wake up, do what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Flashing to Mary Jane, go get him, Tiger. Like everybody, the people that he cares about most are giving him the go ahead. And then we get that last panel, the last page. It's a full page of him, it looks like in a Spider-Man suit. And the beginning is like the last caption that we see on the page. So I thought this first issue was structured fantastically, starting this whole universe,
Yeah.
giving us these tidbits, like leaving these breadcrumbs for all these different storylines, showing us who Spider-Man is, giving him that purpose and saying, this is what it's, and Spider-Man has been broken down so many times, and like what makes Spider-Man great, kind of each piece of his puzzle, his origin story. And this is just another version of that. And you and I loved the Spider-Man 2 video game that came out last year. And it's like that, where it's like, it makes me think, this is why I love Spider-Man. This it right here, like who he is as a character and as a person. And we're getting it again in this new Ultimate Universe. So I was very satisfied with this issue overall, Shaw. Number one issue in this new Ultimate Universe. Has this piqued your interest for the other Ultimate books that are coming out?
Yeah. So one of the cool things, one of the final panels during Tony Stark's like holographic communication he's given him, he says that he's 6 months in the future, because over the next 6 months, he's going to be appearing to other heroes and helping set them on the right path. And so I'm like, oh gosh, we're going to get to see some of that too. And hopefully it's going to be in, varying issues. What I know is that at least in this particular issue at the back of the book, it tells you what's coming up next. We've got Ultimate Spider-Man 2 coming on sale in February. So I'm excited for that. The cover shows Spider-Man and Green Goblin and Peter Parker. And then you've got Ultimate Black Panther #1. And that one's on sale in February as well. That one is not written by Hickman, but you can bet that Hickman is helping guide this universe. So he's, if you want to call it like a showrunner, whatever, story runner. Yeah. And then you've got Ultimate X-Men. So like the X-Men are getting their own reboot of sorts.
Yes.
Which isn't great, because on one universe they're falling. they're ending. And then in another universe, they're getting a reboot. So
yes, looks good, Shaw. February is going to be good. And I think we're going to continue to cover this Ultimate Universe here in the Vactorverse. So if you're enjoying this, stick with us, because we're going to have some more coverage. We've got more comic books coming, more superhero reviews. And if there's anything that you are interested in, let us know. There's nothing I don't think that we don't want to read, but we may not have it on our pull list. We may not be reading it, but if there's a request, if you want to hear our thoughts, or if you want to hear something here in the Vactorverse, let us know and we will bring it to you. Now, Shaw, I gotta say, you have become the ending expert over the course of the last year. Schaff has been building his resume as the best closer in the business. So what do you got for us this time, Schaff?
Oh shoot. Okay. All right. I'm gonna try this one. I'm gonna throw it. I'm just gonna just throw out the dice, see what happens, see where it falls. Vactor and I ultimately believe that we should have been superheroes, so we think you should be superheroes too.